So today's lab purpose and learning objectives, we have a really exciting alumni Q&A with one of our recent graduates. I will have her introduce herself once we get to the next slide. We have a little bit of content on the importance of writing thank you notes, time for you to determine who you should be writing a thank you note to, and then some time to complete a thank you note. And if for whatever reason you get that done really quickly, then you can use the rest of the time in lab to do some scholarship research or work on your Collier Scholars application. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of lab as well. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Cassie to go over the SAT word of the week.
All right, so this week's SAT word is going to be cryptic. So as you can see, there is an example sentence already there. So what we'll go ahead and do is go ahead and type into the chat box what you think the definition of cryptic is. And we'll give you guys a second to do that. All right, Geneva said mysterious, hard to understand, obscure, hidden, secretive, unknown, hidden, strange, mysterious, unsettling. All right, so a lot of good examples there. Definitely hit it right on the head with having a meaning that is mysterious or obscure. So that'll be the official definition there. The root word behind crypt or in front of cryptic is going to be the word crypt, meaning hidden. And then as you all again see that sentence there, the rationale behind the criminal's actions were cryptic to the jury. So if you guys can go ahead and put in another example sentence into that chat box, or please feel free to unmute yourself with another sentence using the word cryptic.
There was a cryptic message written on the victim's wall.
I like that. Thank you, Nixie. The code he wrote was cryptic to anyone who wasn't him. Thank you, Sylvia. All right, so it seems like you guys got the hang of that. So again, the word cryptic, something that you can use in your daily vocabulary. Some synonyms for that you'll see are enigmatic, confusing, and mystifying. And then you'll see some words with the same root, such as cryptography, cryptically, and cryptal. So again, just some words to expand your vocabulary.
All right, so without further ado, we're going to get into the content for today. So we have the alumni panel Q&A going on, and I'll do a tiny little introduction of our alumni, but I'd love for her to say some more about herself. Emma Sullivan is here with us today, and you'll see her pop up in the corner of your screen once she starts talking, so you can put a face to the name. She's a 2020 graduate of the Take Stock in Children program and Naples High School, as well as the FGCU ACE program. She is at Wellesley College now, and she was also last year's Leaders for Life recipient. So all really exciting. Without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Emma to unmute herself and chat a little bit about who she is, and then we'll move on to some questions that you guys asked.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emma. As Cassie said, I'm so sorry, Kaylee. As Kaylee said, I'm so happy to see both of them. It feels like I have not left lab and I'm right back in it. So it is really, really fun. But I was part of Take Stock starting in 8th grade, and then I went on from there. And if I can give you any advice, soak it up as much as you can. You're going to be so much better prepared for the world if you listen to Cassie and Kaylee, because they just disperse wisdom to you. I swear by that, seriously. But I went to FGCU for 2 years, Naples High for 2 years, and now I'm at Wellesley College, which is a private historically women's college in Massachusetts, so just outside of Boston. If you have any questions about private schools or anything about historically women's college, that's a totally awesome question. I'd love to talk to you about that, but definitely for a different time. So if you have those, I guess direct them to Kaylee and then maybe to me. I don't know if that appeals to anyone here, but that is a very specific thing I can talk about personally, as well as QuestBridge. And if the Leaders for Life applications are still open, I totally recommend that you apply. If you have questions about that experience, I would also love to talk to you about that. The family that runs that foundation, and so basically you get $10,000 a year if you get it, and you also get a MacBook as a finalist. It's a great deal. And you're part of this alumni network for life, including me, and then a few other Naples High School graduates and Naples Take Stock graduates as well. And it's a super fun team. But yeah, that's me. Happy to be here and happy to see everybody again.
Awesome. So we went ahead and we pulled a bunch of the questions that were asked, and we're going to try to see how many of these we can get through. I don't want to take too much time away from being able to look at those thank you notes. So we've got a bit of time reserved for this, but I'd also love to be able to have you all type questions into the chat box to put Emma on the spot. She knew she was going to be asked these questions, so she had time to think of what her answers might be. But I also know that once you hear somebody talk, it's a little bit easier to, ask questions that way as well. And if there's something that's not in her wheel well to answer, it might be in our wheel well, it might be in nobody's wheel well, but we will assess that as you pop those into the chat box. Feel free, as you're listening to answers to any of these questions, to also ask questions in the chat box. We will get to those as we move along. So the first question, when picking your college, how did you decide on picking the right one for you?
So a few of my answers are going to be pre-COVID world answers, but basically I was lucky enough that I got to go tour my campus and get a feel for it in advance. And I got to go to a few seminar events where an admissions advisor was there. What I would advise, I guess, as a substitute is that most universities right now have wonderful virtual tours. Take advantage of those. And then I'm sure the admissions office will absolutely take phone calls if you have any questions at all. And usually there are student volunteers who are in those offices as well who can answer questions for you. If you have questions about programs, absolutely talk to the directors and chairs of those programs specifically. That's how I found my school. I looked at the English program, which is what I'm most passionate about, found out that the faculty is wonderful and teaches a lot of the same things that I wanted to learn. And so I just went from there.
Awesome, thank you. And again, too, if you feel like the answer has spawned more questions about that question, if that one was yours, or even if it's not, please utilize the chat box. So I don't know about this question, Emma, if you experienced this on a basis of actually applying to colleges, but I was thinking maybe more on that Quest Bridge front, you'd have experience just being able to understand an outcome that isn't as expected. So what should you do if you get deferred?
Sure. Well, absolutely stay hopeful, first and foremost. It's not the end of the world if you don't get into one school or another. Someone will be so happy to have you and you'll do amazing things either way. I was fortunate to get accepted early decision to the school that I wanted to get into, but I do know people who were deferred, who still got into wonderful schools, and basically just don't put all of your eggs in one basket. I'm sure you guys know that. Keep your options open. Yeah, so I guess just make sure you've applied to enough schools within your safety, your reach, and then all of those things that I'm sure you already know.
All right. When you applied to colleges, how often did you communicate with the admissions office?
Very little. The most experience I had once I got accepted was with the financial aid office, which I'm sure you guys will as well, racking up those scholarships. No, the most you really get, I think, is the mail they'll send you individually. If you don't complete something, you'll hear from them. Make sure you look out for that if you haven't. But yeah, they're pretty brief.
Awesome. Can you describe the process after which you obtained a scholarship?
So I have a few different of these I can discuss with you. If you apply out of state through Take Stock, you get a small increment, and that you get a number that you have to provide directly to your financial aid office, which is kind of the most labor intensive. If you receive some from the Community Foundation of Collier, they handle that communication for you. They just, as long as they know where you're going and certain your student ID, they direct it, which is all handled through their forms. And then after that, so Leaders for Life, for example, I fill out a reimbursement form or I apply for the money directly. And so all of those things really depend on who's giving you the money, but it's, again, pretty painless. If you have questions, those direct to your financial aid officers usually, or probably here at Take Stock before then.
Awesome. What is the most difficult aspect of transitioning from high school to college, and how can it be overcome?
So I might be in the huge minority here, but I'm an only child and I lived with just my dad. So I was never really around kids my age. So it's really kind of a fun and weird experience to like see people and get to talk to them all the time. Like I've never had this much social interaction in my life, 24 hours a day. Even in COVID times, it's great to always know that there's someone to grab lunch with, someone to grab a meal with. I guess it's really, you always have someone in your corner. Your RA is always there to rescue if you need them, which is really special.
Awesome. So what was the most surprising thing you learned when you got to your university?
I think the most of the surprises really came when I was at FGCU, which I dual enrolled there instead. And I think if you went to FSW or FGCU in your time in high school, you'd understand this as well, that you really do have to pull your own weight. Your professors, and like I don't say this harshly, but your professors aren't keeping an eye out for you the way you have to keep an eye out for yourself. If you get behind on deadlines, that's on you. Please keep organized. It'll do so much good. I'm still learning this lesson.
So once you get accepted into a school, but you're not sure if you want to go there, what should you do?
So I would say if you have friends from your high school, or if you can contact your guidance counselor to see if there's any alums who went there after, definitely reach out to them. I think those are the people who would have the most similar experience to you in regards to moving from where you are to where you're going. I would say if you're not sure, don't deposit, wait. You could get better offers. You could get better scholarship offers. Yeah, just, I don't know. If you get to a point where you don't know where you should go and you have all of your options in front of you, you could flip a coin. I do know people who flipped a coin last year and they're pretty happy. They turned out okay at the schools that they were at, but I don't think that should be your first option, but you have a plan F.
So I'd love to hear you chat a little bit, and this is just our experience working as coordinator and student with not being sure of whether you want to go somewhere based on finances. I know your situation was like down to the wire and making that decision before having to put a deposit down.
That's true. So basically, I had about, I think maybe five or 6 days in between when I got my letter to when I had to decide. And it was looking like I was not going to be able to afford it. In the final few minutes, I had racked up a lot of scholarships, but I'm sure you guys know, I'm sure Kaylee and Cassie have told you that out-of-state tuition is expensive. And if you're going to sign an early decision thing anywhere, make sure your family knows that you could be paying $70 grand a year, and that's a huge commitment. But I am incredibly fortunate that Wellesley gave me tons and tons of financial support to be here. So if you're not sure based on the money, you know, the school accepted you, the school wants you, contact the financial aid office. COVID is a totally different ballgame, and usually it's looking like, especially here where I am, that they're building in extra grants for money next year. If you're filling out your FAFSA and you're thinking you might need money, definitely apply for work study, especially because another thing is that some schools are not allowing you to do off-campus jobs right now. So that's also something to consider in your financial future.
Wonderful. This is my favorite. How many colleges and universities did you apply to?
It was kind of silly of me. I applied to, I think, 13, and I only know I got accepted to 1 because of early decision. If I had not gotten in, I would know, but I don't even know if I got into state schools. So
can you share a little bit about why you don't know that, like how that early decision process works?
Of course. So there are a few different options in the Florida schools and anywhere else. There's early decision, which is a binding contract. If you sign it and you get in, you're gone. And the only exception is that you can wait for financial aid offers from other schools and see if they're better. And that's really the only case you can make, and you can't pull back on this. And then there's also early evaluation, which some private schools do. Wellesley does it where you can send your application, they'll tell you if it's likely or unlikely, and then they'll give you their full yes or no or wait list after that. Sorry if you can hear people screaming out my window. I don't know what's going on there. Welcome to college. But and then sorry, what was, I totally just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
We were talking about how you applied to 13 schools, but you don't even know if you got into any of them aside from the one because of early decision.
So as soon as I got the acceptance from Wellesley, they sent my financial aid letter in time that I never got to that January 15th or whatever my next acceptance would have been. And by then, once I got the acceptance, then I knew that they were giving me enough money. I had to rescind all of my other applications. And also the other thing is that if you apply ED anywhere and you get in and you know that you're going there, do everyone else in the world a solid and rescind your applications as soon as you can, because you are sitting in the seat that someone else could be getting that relief that you're feeling right now of knowing where you're going to school, because you're taking someone off of a wait list. But yeah, so if you do get into your ED, you might not know. And then I mean, that's kind of why they do it, is so that they know that you're there for, they're your first choice. And that's the whole deal, essentially.
So that's a really, really important thing to understand, not only early decision, especially early decision, but even if you hear back from a school and you decide and you deposit, and maybe you're thinking, you know, I didn't want to apply to those other schools, but I did just to do it, you can still contact the school and rescind your application, especially for those decision day schools. So keep that in mind. If you're not familiar with that, or you think that you might be in that situation and you need more information, please reach out to us and we'll walk you through, you know, who to contact and whatnot there. I know that probably sounds like some new information, and because it probably is. Where are we? Okay. What were you looking for when applying to schools?
So Kaylee knows this. I flip-flopped on dream schools every year, I think, for those 4 years. And they were always these big, bright. I wanted to go to NYU first, which is so different than Wellesley. Massive and public and in a huge city. And so those things change over time. They may change for you in the next few months as you start to figure out what programs you want to look into. But I think some of the most important factors for me were, and I'm telling my friends who are graduating this year that something that I didn't know but would consider is how direct the communication is between your school's administration and its students, because we have a lot, I mean, there's a lot happening in the world right now, and it's that line of communication being clear to voice concerns or even compliments with the people who are making decisions on your behalf about your living situation, and all, like, even just like how, like, the things that we have access to in the dining hall, that's really, really important. And I think as much as you can find that information is essential if you want to get involved on campus. If you know your program, what you want to pursue, that's great to view the track that your school would have you in. Usually they have a model of what courses you would take. I know if FGCU has a wonderful one if you're looking at that school for any program that you're interested in there. Class size, I would say, is more important to me than the student body size, but all of that's to your preference. If you like a quiet study space, you'll find one. If you like to be around a loud room, you'll find that too. I mean, not these days, but like here we have different spaces where it's like you can study here, but people are talking more. Here it's a silent room. Like, no matter where you are, you'll find your people, is my feeling.
Awesome. This is a tough question, and I don't know if the person that asked this question is here and maybe wants to like follow up if we're not hitting the nail on the head. But I'm going to let Emma try to answer it to the best of her ability. If I am unsure of my major, should I still schedule my classes as if I'm 100% sure I want to do that particular major? Or should I try to schedule classes that are more applicable to multiple majors? Or do my first year or two classes that do not matter as much to my overall major?
Okay, so I get what you're saying. I get the gist. But basically, when you apply to colleges right now on your Common App or any application, and you say, I think I'm going to be an engineering major or education major, doesn't matter. They're going to ask you again down the line, so you can constantly change your mind. You don't have to know what you're going to do probably until your second semester of your sophomore year. The only track I would say people seem to know as soon as they get here from the jump is pre-med. I feel like if this person probably is not seeking that if you don't know what you're going to do. Even then, state schools in Florida have a common core. So you're going to need some bio, some math, some art history or whatever. Like, no matter what you do, it's going to serve a purpose and you're going to learn something. So I would say if you're unsure, take things broadly that might help you narrow it down a bit.
That's a really great answer for that one. I'm just going to add a tiny bit to it. Make sure that you understand kind of that like big bubble of what you're interested in. I would say, generally speaking, somebody who wants to be an English major doesn't also want to be a nurse. I think that that is a mildly fair assumption. However, it might not be, and that might be you, and that's fine. But just know that there are certain programs, and I say nursing because that one jumps out at me every year, where some schools require you to apply as a nursing major in order to ever become a part of the nursing program. So it's really important that if you think you might potentially want that, that you at least understand which schools follow which tracks. That way, maybe that school just isn't going to be the one for you if you're not certain upon application. So be mindful of that. And then the other piece of that is, although Florida schools and other schools as well have that common core, I can speak on experience myself, and I'm sure so many people can speak on this. The electives that I took, I wish that I had known what I wanted to major in when I was choosing those. I took really, really cool electives in college. I took like a social problems course, which was all about like issues in the world and probably be really interesting nowadays. I took a sociology of crime course where we talked about serial killers and really crazy things that I didn't even know were offered in college. And I took a yoga and meditation course. I took courses that I don't even understand sometimes how they were formulated to give college credit because they were so cool and fun. I'm very grateful to have taken those courses, but I don't know that they benefit me in my major. I think that it would have been awesome had I known what I wanted to do to be able to take courses that were more cohesive with my major. Am I regretful? No, not at all. They were great courses. However, some majors, you might feel like you have a little leg up if you knew what you wanted and were able to kind of fill that coursework in your first 2 years with applicable elective courses. It's not the end of the world, but just know that that situation might be the situation that you are in. Okay, we're in the home stretch here. So really great answers so far. Can you still apply for scholarships while being in college?
Totally. Quite simply, the people who graduated from the college you're going to go to have made money and they want to give that money to you. And that's very nice of them. And you should gladly accept. You can still apply through the Community Foundation in Naples. The Women's Club of Naples has some wonderful scholarships, especially some that you can't even apply for until you've gone through college, at least some. So keep an eye out. Even Wells, like my bank just sent me scholarships to apply to. You'll get those emails all the time. I know there's websites that Kaylee and Cassie provide you. I still get the emails from, like, not Sally Mae, but there's tons of scholarship websites out there. And I know you guys know which ones are safe. Those don't disappear when you, because they know you don't stop needing money after your freshman year of college. It's like people will be there to provide for you. Your financial aid office can help you find scholarships. This I actually learned from our own alumni Q&A last year. If you are a member of a first generation group or anything else, there are usually like houses for certain groups and organizations, and those can totally help you find networks like that. I know there's also a Take Stock in Children network that you get into when you go to college now. Anything like that, any organization where you feel like you can have someone who's your age, a little bit older, who's gone through your college path a little bit more on the same school, will totally be able to help you find that.
Wonderful. How do you know if college and further education is for you?
This is a hard question for me, only because I started like looking at college apps when I was in 5th grade because I was so excited about college. I would say, one, if you feel like you're not sure, talk to Kaylee, talk to your guidance counselor. There are thousands and thousands of options. Not all of those include college, but even technical school is further education. You can make bank doing that work. And if you have the Take Stock scholarship, that can be paid for those 2 years. Same with an associate's degree. Even that, it can do so much for you in just the communication skills you learn through taking college courses. I would say apply anyway if you don't know for sure. If you don't know right now that you want to go to college, don't regret not applying now. You can always apply again, but I would say there are free applications to FSW and other schools around you that are available to you, and don't sleep on those, because you don't know what you're going to want in a few years or a few months, and so you might as well keep the option open.
Awesome answer. I don't have too much to add to that. I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. I think, you have time to decide, but really take what Emma said to heart. And don't, I think we've said it with respect to like work study, don't take the opportunity away from your future self. Just figure it out now, and you can make your final decision later. Just because you're accepted to a school doesn't mean unless you're applying early decision, doesn't mean you're bound to go there. So think about that, give yourself that grace, and understand that you can change your mind, but make sure that you're researching all possible options that you think would be applicable for you. And the very last question that we have on here is, what do you think is the most important part of the college application?
So I got to interview for my school, which I thought was really valuable and helped show as much of me as possible in person, and which is, again, hard to do these days. If that's not something for you that you have available to you in your college application process, your closest thing is your essay. And I know you've heard this time and time again. It doesn't have to be like the most brilliant piece of writing ever, so long as it's clear who you are in it. Like, that is the most important part, is people can see your story. Like, that's what they want to hear from you, and see what makes you you. And I think everyone has, I'm an English major, so I get kind of corny about this stuff, but I think everyone has a story that makes them very special, and that can come out here. And it doesn't have to be it's not corny to talk about yourself and the things that make you proud of yourself, or the things that made you you, or even like, I don't know. I just think that I will get corny about writing any day, but you got this far. Something must have happened between now and then. You learned something. That's really all it is. That's the bare bones. And it's certainly interesting because it's individual to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for answering all those questions. Hopefully the questions, some of these, I mean, I'm certain that some of you in this lab asked some of these questions. But with that said, I didn't see anything come into the chat box while Emma was answering any of these. Take the opportunity now, if you have any questions at all for an alumni. Again, it might not be a question that Emma has an answer for, but it might be a question that's more specific to anyone else in our alumni network. We have hundreds and thousands of alumni of our program that if you have a really specific question, we can figure out getting an answer for, an opinion, anything of that nature. So you can unmute yourself, you can type into the chat box. We have a couple minutes left for Q&A. Don't all jump at once. It's really valuable to be able to have an alumni here to ask questions. She was just through all of this, and she's in college now during the current COVID climate. So that's another really important thing to consider, because there's a strong likelihood that this situation is going to continue for a bit of time, as far as precautions and whatnot go. So think about that.
Yeah, if you have any questions on how to, I spent 5 days alone in a hotel room with none of my own things, because that's what our policy was. So if you're trying to wonder how to stay entertained during college COVID times, please ask me. I don't know if I have the right answers, but I have watched some good TV.
Awesome.
And then Kaylee, if you flip to the next one, I think there was a few more questions that had gotten submitted. I'm not sure.
There are a couple other questions that got submitted, but they were totally not in an alumni wheel well. They were more in I'm just going to rip through them kind of thing. So I will answer those. If you submitted a question, you're like, wait, what the heck? Why is mine not on here? Does the environment of the college that I'd like to attend really matter?
Thank you, Moira. I don't know what you mean. If you mean suburban or rural or urban, or if you mean the environment meaning a large or small college. I think that my friends who are at larger colleges have still found small communities that they enjoy being in, if that's something that you're worried about. Regards to the urban, suburban, rural thing, I would say it doesn't matter only during COVID times. Like this is something that you would want to consider if you think you want to make connections with other schools. Like I'm close in proximity to other schools I can dual enroll at, whether that's a factor for you or not. I guess that's all I know about that, really.
Think about,
Okay, thank you.
sorry, more. Think about University of Florida. That's the best example that I will give and give and give for every class that I work with. If you are looking at a school like University of South Florida in Tampa, in the most metropolitan area you can think of, but you're also looking at a school like University of Florida in Gainesville in the middle of nowhere. Think about that environment. If you are somebody who is totally okay with that and you think that there's not going to be an issue, maybe environment doesn't matter to you. But if you think that might pose a problem, then maybe environment does matter and you want to think about which environment you prefer.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on switching majors?
I take all of my friends here, every time we take a class, we think that the thing that we've learned is totally wonderful. And so your advisor will be the one to tell you when it's too late to do this. You're nowhere near that right now. You have so much time. Play around. If I can encourage you to, like, if you're thinking, I really love this, but I'm kind of interested in this, you have a little leeway. I would say you have like 2 or 3 classes of leeway your first year. If you're unsure, if you take the full course load too, which is also a whole other ball game. Don't take the full credit load your first semester of college. That's another tip.
Can you let everyone know what a full credit load might look like?
So my max at FGCU when I was in the ACE program was 5 courses a week. It was a lot. So another wonderful thing about college is that you don't have to have class every day. I don't think they tell you this beforehand, but I don't have class on Wednesdays. It's awesome. So yeah, but switch your major if that's a question for an advisor, but trust your gut and play around.
Awesome. Keep in mind too, this kind of just brings up the fact that I know we have a lot of FSW dual enrolled students that are taking 5 classes or that, 15 credit hour range. That's a lot. It is a lot to be enrolled in. Keep in mind, if you think you're doing just fine in that number of credit hours, you're at a state college, and that might work for you at a state college. However, when you go to a university, you're upping the rigor of your academic coursework, and you might not be able to thrive in that many courses, and that's okay. So keep all of that in mind and work with your advisors once you get to that point. I'm going to answer this one. You can dual enroll during college. The loaded answer on that is it depends. It depends on your school. It depends on how many credits you have left to complete in your major. I would highly encourage you to do personal research on that and the schools that you are going to, because there's a lot of room for error if you're thinking about taking coursework at like a visiting college. It's really important for you to work with your like home school to determine whether that's an option for you. How do you stay disciplined during college?
I really like this question because I love what it implies, and like you're already so responsible for asking, I think. So if you worry about that, the best way I think to hold accountability is to set a group of friends and study with them or study at the same time as them and make sure you're getting your work done. If you asked me last year if I would take an 8:30 a.m. in college, I would have laughed, but I did. And I really think that if you like want to become an early riser, I have to force myself into those consequences. Maybe you're not the same way, but yeah, I think your friends will help you a lot. My friends from back home have been a total blessing. My mentor is a blessing. Your mentor, if you have one, please like tell them how much you love them and appreciate them as much as you can, as often as you can. And that's someone else who I think can help you hold you accountable. Also your advisor. Tons of other people. Like once you get to college, there are about 50 people your first week who are like, reach out to me if you need anything, and they mean it because it's their job to take care of you and make sure you're happy and healthy. So I think you'll be in good hands no matter where you end up.
Do you have any input about honors college?
I don't personally have this experience because I didn't apply to any because I knew in my understanding from FGCU that I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I have experience. I was in the FGCU Honors College. I don't know what I'm talking about. FGCU Honors College is great. Highly recommend it. You can take honors college classes there if you're not an honors college student, but it's weird. If you want more rigor, do it. If you think maybe you want to wait, you can always apply later, because they always want to bring more people into this because it's beneficial to the program. It doesn't hurt to apply now if it doesn't cost any extra to you. Might as well try.
Awesome. How did you adjust to COVID in college? For example, dealing with online classes, staying entertained, etc.
So again, I had to quarantine for 5 days because I came from a high incidence state. And that first week we did a lot of Zooms among ourselves, lots of TV. It was, during the election season, things were a lot more dramatic and I had a lot more to pay attention to. But board games are fun. I have a tarot deck. I try to learn these weird things that I wanted to know about. Writing postcards, reading. I'm kind of a dork if you haven't gathered by everything. So maybe these things aren't the same for you, but I'm trying to think of the fun things you can expect at college that maybe you wouldn't have had otherwise, pre-COVID. Tons of Among Us. I don't do it. I don't know how, but like everyone is doing that all the time. Online classes, they're hard. I'm sure you guys know that the motivation to do those is kind of hard. I recommend snack motivation. Once it's over, you can have some candy, is really how it can be sometimes.
That's awesome. And we're going to go ahead and close out with this last question. A lot of college supplementals will ask you about your passion, goals, career goals. If you're not 100% sure what they are, what is the best way you should approach those supplementals? So
when I wrote my college essay, I ended up writing a lot about the people who were my role models, one of which was my mentor. Again, use like that. Your mentor is such a resource to you. Kaylee and Cassie are such a resource. Please let them know how much you appreciate them all the time. But that's my last word on that. So I would say if you're not sure if you don't think in your head you see yourself in the lab coat or with this, like whatever the job is, I think your values are still important and they can also steer you. So, I mean, think about someone you admire, the thing that they do, whether it's the work itself or how they do it, can be a really helpful way of doing that. Whether however your parents raised you, your favorite teacher, and how their methods led you to love learning, or your sports coach, anything I think that you have a passion about doesn't necessarily have to be your career, but someone taught you something, and by teaching you that inspired you to want to learn more about it. And I think that whatever that thing was is the thing you can talk about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emma, for coming and hanging out with us in lab tonight, answering all of these questions. If you guys think of questions that, you feel like after listening to Emma tonight, she would be a really great fit to provide some insight on, we can pass those along to her. So feel free to shoot us an email. Other than that, we are going to keep going with some important things that we have to cover in lab. So if we could all just unmute ourselves and give Emma a thank you, that would be awesome.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. So I know that it's tough to kind of come off of having something fun like that and then have to actually look at other things. But some other questions submitted, I want to cover these really quickly. How do I decide on a career if I'm struggling on what I want to major in? I think that Emma talked a little bit about just the struggling factor of struggling with your post-secondary plan, struggling with the coursework that you want to take. I would say that you don't need to have it all together right now. And I know we've said that to you all before. You don't need to know what your whole life plan is. And even if you do, there's a pretty high chance that it could change. You're 17, 18 years old. So you don't need to decide on a career. And feeling like you're struggling with what you want to major in is a pretty normal thing. I would encourage you to look at the things that you like doing and look at things that you feel will provide success in your life and see how you can merge those together and figure out what careers come from that. Utilize career clusters on Naviance, utilize like the personality tests, those are not definitive. Please don't come at me and say that I told you they were definitive when it comes back and says that you should be like a garbage truck driver. They are not definitive. They are just suggestions, but they could be useful. So I would highly encourage that, and talk to us. That's what we're here for. You guys at this point should know who your coordinator is. I know we had some changes on that in the beginning of the year with the CCP students, but talk to us. We're here for individual and academic planning. Should you apply for honors programs, even if you think they'll be too difficult for you? I just have to say this is a personal decision. I think if you are worried they're going to be too difficult and you're not going to pass the classes, that's one thing, and the rigor might be too high. If you're worried it's going to be a lot of work, welcome to real life. Real life is a lot of work. You've got to decide on the level of rigor that you want in your coursework. It might be, it might be something where, like Emma said, you don't apply to the honors program, but you look at going to schools that allow you to take honors classes where you can kind of dabble in them a little bit as necessary. Will we be helped with filling out financial aid packages that specific schools offer once accepted to the school? So typically, you don't do much of anything after you receive your financial aid package. You would confirm awards on an online portal, which is very easy. And I don't know that anybody would have an issue doing that themselves. If you do, we're always happy to help. We do talk about scholarships and that process. I mean, we had last week's lab on that. We can help with residency information, things of that nature, but contact us individually if you're having trouble with anything financial aid wise. Typically, the right move would be to go to your school's financial aid office, but keep us in the loop. Is a community college a good idea for an associate's degree? I will speak to the point of, typically you can only obtain an actual degree, like an actual associate's degree, from a community or state college. So if you go to FGCU and you finish your general education requirements, you're not just going to be handed over that associate's degree. It's a four-year school, so the expectation is that you stay there for 4 years and finish out a program. However, if you go to FSW, you will get an associate's degree upon completion of that program. There are some four-year schools where you can request to receive an associate's degree diploma. So you have that in the case that you no longer want to finish out the 4 years. How does Bright Futures work? Do you automatically receive the scholarship if you reach the requirements, or are they able to decline it for some other reason? So a couple weeks ago in lab, we had you all fill out the Florida financial aid application. If for any reason you are sitting here and you know that you did not fill that out, or you did not show us proof that you filled it out, you will be getting correspondence from us in the coming week letting you know that we don't know if you filled that out or not. And it's incredibly important to fill out, not only for Bright Futures, but for state aid in the state of Florida. So once you fill out the Florida financial aid application, that is that application that allows your school counselor to kind of press the green light go button on your Bright Futures if you meet the eligibility requirements. So if you have the test scores, you have the Bright Futures approved volunteer hours for whichever range you're going for, FMS or FAS, and you have the GPA corresponding with FMS or FAS. Your counselor will then be able to say, okay, they meet the eligibility requirements and they have finished the Florida financial aid application. Good to go. And if for any reason it doesn't appear on your financial aid package at a school, you should contact them. I'm still having trouble picking a topic to write about for college essays, and the deadline for FGCU is coming up close. Are there workshops like tutor.com that I can use to help me with this? So I wanted to keep this one on here, not to target anyone in particular, because I am certain that this one person is not the only person that felt like this, but do not ask these questions in a contact form. Questions like these should be emailed to us. We can help you before deadlines pass. We sent out this constant contact several weeks in advance. So hopefully you figured it out at this point in time. We never heard from anybody. This is what we're here for. We're here to work with you on these types of things. Don't feel like you have to wait until we have like a contact form for questions for an alumni that comes up. This is something that you can still do. You can still apply to FGCU, although their priority deadline has passed. They are still welcoming applications, and we'll chat a little bit about that toward the end of this session. But if you're having trouble with your essays, you should be contacting us as soon as possible. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Miss Cassie to go through thank you notes, and then we'll close out the session and you'll have a little bit of time to work on a thank you note.
Thank you, Kaylee. All right. So as you all know, this session was mandatory for you all because you guys will all be completing thank you notes. This will not be your first round of thank you notes this year. So we do just want to get you guys familiar with it, as you guys will be doing them again in this spring. So first and foremost, you'll see, why should you write a thank you note? You'll see that quote there that says, the more you use gratitude every day, the greater the good you will bring into your life. So like Emma was saying, I mean, it's super important to show gratitude to the people that are there to help you. There are multiple people that are always in your corner and there to help you. So just showing that appreciation for them is super important, and it definitely can make someone's day, week, month doing so. So first and foremost, it is the right thing to do. Again, saying thank you to those that have helped you can really go a long way for yourself. So make sure that you are doing that. And it also does set you apart from everyone else. So you'll be surprised, but not a lot of people these days write thank you notes or thank you cards or even say thank you in general. So receiving a thank you note is really something that is super personal for some people. Gratitude is good for you. It is important to reflect on what others have done to you. So again, if somebody has done a kind gesture for you, sending them that thank you note is really going to show the appreciation that you have for them in that specific gesture. So as you all know, when it comes to college application season, it's not something that's only stressful for you, but for everyone around you. You're not the only person stressing about those deadlines, stressing about those essays. You have so many people in your corner that are like, all right, well, what is it that I have to do to make sure that this person needs to be where they need to be? How is it that I can help them? So that's when you bring everyone else into the situation, whether it's your counselor, your teachers, your mentor, your family. It's not always just you doing the work, and it's not always just you that's stressing out. So again, just being mindful of everyone around you and how everyone else around you does put in that helping hand for you. And again, showing that gratitude. So with college application season being done for the most part and moving into scholarship season, now is really the time to really think about the people that are in your support system and the people that have helped you throughout this time, especially with the situation and everything going on. You guys have had more help than ever. So again, just showing that gratitude. And whether it's preparing you for college applications, preparing you for scholarship applications, helping you with housing applications, writing a letter of recommendation, or even just talking to you while you're going through a stressful time. I mean, anything that anyone has done, showing that gratitude and thanking them is super important. I know when I get thank you notes from students, if any of you have been into my office, you'll see them plastered all over my office with those handwritten thank you notes. It is, again, just a kind gesture, and it really does, like I said, set you apart and show that you are grateful for what that specific person has done for you throughout everything. Now, who you should write a thank you note to. So first and foremost, if you are in the Take Stock in Children program, it is mandatory that you are writing a note to your mentor, not only because it is a part of the program, but because it's your mentor, and your mentors do a lot for you all and are there for you. So just showing that gratitude to your mentor is super important. So that will be one of the letters that you are writing, again, if you are in that Take Stock in Children program, to your mentor. For other recommendations that we have are teachers who actually wrote recommendation letters for you. So whether it's a teacher, a counselor, a coach, really anyone that wrote any kind of recommendation letter for you for any kind of programs or scholarships or colleges, sending them a thank you note is important, again, only because they did that for you. They did that out of the kindness of their heart. They spoke greatly of you. And at the end of the day, they don't have to do that. No one has to write a recommendation letter for anyone. So just showing that gratitude and showing that appreciation to them is important, as well as your school counselor. As you all know, your school counselors are dealing with a lot right now, the same way that you are, and trying to make sure that everyone is doing what they need to do, making sure that you guys are on track for your senior year, making sure you guys are walking across the stage. So I think showing appreciation to them right now, especially during this time, would be very much appreciated by your counselors if you do have that relationship with them. Employers or coworkers. So if you do have a close relationship with a coworker or employer, or if your employer has been very accommodating during these times, that can also be a great person to send a thank you note to. A friend or a family member, like I said, it is the little things that have been going on right now and the people that have been in your corner during the little things. So even writing a thank you note to your family or your family member or a friend is acceptable as well. All right, so formatting. So you'll see here a thank you note format that we have come up with for you all. So you'll see in the beginning there, the salutation. It is super important to know how to address a letter. You're not gonna say, hi, hello, yo. That's not how you're gonna be starting your thank you note. So making sure you're putting dear Mr. and Mrs. Blank, or dear Sally Mae, or knowing their name or their salutation. If you don't know if it's a Miss or Mrs., probably going with the first and last name to be safe. But again, addressing it with the dear, not starting it with the a, the yo, the hi, hello. We're not doing that. Expressing gratitude. So that's kind of how you're going to be beginning your thank you note. So we put an example here. Thank you for taking the time to blankety blank blank blank. And then you'll see the next part is, how did they help exactly? So did they provide you a letter of recommendation? Did they help you with your application process? Did they review an essay or application for you, etc.? So again, just letting them know and starting it out with exactly what you're thanking them for and how thankful you are to have them in your corner in there. And then closing it out with thank you again. So you'll see that closing there. Thank you again for your assistance. I will keep you updated with blank, blank, blank. And then ending it off with sincerely your first and last name. So again, ending it off with that professional sincerely as well. Not the okay, bye, or love always, or anything of that nature. So ending it professionally, starting it professionally is super important. And again, having that first and last name. So on the flip side of the screen, once you are done completing those thank you notes using the template that we've provided on the left side, Take Stock in Children students, you guys will be sending your mentor thank you note to the lab, and we will be mailing that to your mentor. So again, Take Stock in Children students, email your mentor note to the lab, not to your mentor. We'll send it to your mentor. College and career preparation students are to send your thank you notes to lab at Champions for Learning with a copy of the thank you note for benchmark purposes. So you all will be sending your original or copy of your thank you note to the lab. The best way to do this is to email the note to the recipient and then forward it to the lab. So again, once you do send that thank you note, you're always able to just forward that email directly to lab at Champions for Learning. Again, that's for CCP students and their thank you notes. Take Stock in Children students, for your mentor notes, you guys will be emailing us the original thank you note, not a copy. Do not send it to your mentor. We will take care of that for you.
A couple things to note here. In the closing, we see every year people that have like really good relationships with who they're writing their thank you to, putting like hearts and smiles and stuff. If you have a really good relationship with that person and you feel like that is appropriate because that's what you guys normally do, that's fine. I would really, truly, truly please stay away from doing that if you are writing this to like a teacher or a counselor. Keep it sweet and simple, no smiles, no hearts, nothing like that. Just a really nice little note to them. Keep it appropriate. If you are confused about how you provide us with those thank you notes, we are happy to continuously clarify that. Something to note here for Take Stock students sending this to us via email, please send this to us as a Word document. Please do not type it up inside of the email. When we say Word document, we mean Word document. We don't mean Pages document. We can't open that. We're on PCs here, but send it over as a Word document. This is going to be a part of something really nice and special for your mentors. So it's important that we have a quality thank you note for you that we can send along to them. Other than that, I haven't gotten any questions in the chat box, but if you do have them around this, it's really important to ask ahead of time. With that said, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to like rip through these next couple slides in just a couple minutes so that way you guys have as much time as possible to work on that thank you note. This slide has been in the past couple labs, FGCU, still doing those individual tours. If you're thinking you want to go there and you haven't toured, it would be a good idea if you feel comfortable to take an individual tour. Something else to note about FGCU, I mentioned earlier that it's not too late to apply if you have not already submitted an application. They have provided this Flock to the Nest event to us, as well as several other nonprofits in the area that are community partners with them. This is on November 17th from 6 to 7 p.m. So please understand that there are like no lab conflicts with this. If you want to go to it, we highly encourage you to get registered as soon as possible and attend this event. Also be mindful that this is something that you don't need to attend if you have already applied to the school. The idea is that this event provides you with the opportunity to complete your application. So there will be a waiver code in this event. So we provided you with a waiver code for an early application. We provided that in August because we really wanted you to get that application done before that November 1st priority deadline. However, now that it is after November 1st, FGCU is providing us as a community partner with another opportunity for our students to apply to their school free of charge. So if you have not applied and you're thinking you want to apply to FGCU, attend this event. It's for an hour from 6 to 7 p.m. on November 17th, and you will be able to apply for free. You can click on this link in the presentation that we have uploaded to Dropbox to get registered for that event. Another reminder, and you'll get this in your lab email on Friday, the Community Foundation in Collier County, the Collier Scholars Common Application is open. So this was a presentation from last week. If you did not attend lab, you should absolutely 100,000% watch the recording of the lab session to catch you up to speed. These are the big fish in a small pond kind of scholarship applications, as they are Collier County scholarship applications. So this application portal is open. If you were in lab last week, you created an account. You can now go into that account and get started on your application. You can view the applicant tutorial provided by the Community Foundation under the first link. And then the second link is the link to actually submit your application for the Collier Scholars Program. So definitely get started on that. You might not have time today in lab, but you will have time moving forward. So be mindful of that. The deadline for this application is February 1st. Seems like a long time away, but it is going to creep up on you really, really quickly. Next week's lab is a working session, and anybody who does not send us a thank you card by tonight will be expected to attend that lab to get in that thank you card. So definitely a really important piece of the puzzle. Any of your friends who didn't attend tonight and have no plans of attending tomorrow, they're going to be contacted to attend next week. If you are thinking, oh my goodness, the Collier Scholars application opened and I feel like I need time to reserve to actually get that application done and started, come to lab next week. We will be here for the whole time and we'll be able to help with that as well. To-do list looks a little bit lengthy here today. You're not going to be able to get through it. We wanted to spend a lot of time on the alumni panel because it's just a great opportunity to hear from alumni. So just know that this is kind of that like running to-do list for you. So you want to complete at least one thank you note. That's the idea. Again, those in the Take Stock program, you would complete a thank you note for your mentor. If you want to complete more. It doesn't hurt to send a thank you to everybody who's helped you along the way. Work on college applications if applicable. Again, this might not be applicable to everybody, and then begin gathering items for that common application for Collier Scholars. Utilize the Scholarship Connector to research scholarships. All really important things to be doing at this point in time. So please be mindful that that is kind of a running to-do list that you'll want to keep on the agenda. So that is it as far as what we have for lab today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.